good, really early morning. My body decided to wake up a good hour and a half earlier than I was supposed to. And instead of waking my partner up, I decided I'd just go to the office, but I didn't have anything to do that early. So here we are. It's 7:20 in the morning and I'm at work. But I'm not doing work, I'm doing this. Today I want to go through a bunch of really cute Christmas ornament patterns that I've found. This year I haven't had time to knit any Christmas ornaments. I really wanted to get into it because I think the idea of having a Christmas ornament that you've made yourself and adding to your Christmas tree every year is just a really sweet idea. I did lie. I just lied. Because I did knit a bunch of tiny socks and hung them on my Christmas wreath on my door. So I have knitted 9 or 10 ornaments, but I haven't knit anything that's going up in the tree. I don't know if we're having a tree this year. The caffeine is kicking in, so we are good. But I have gathered a bunch of free patterns that I would want to make myself, and I have you propped up on my monitor, so if I don't keep eye contact with you, it's because I'm looking at the screen. But the first pattern is Snowflakes by Lene Rix. She's a Danish designer and I have knitted one of her patterns before. I knit the Cascade tank top over the autumn, early autumn, for my mother's birthday. And it's a beautiful pattern, but it was quite tricky, and this pattern looks quite tricky too. It is a bunch of different snowflakes or a bunch of different snowflake variations. It's designed for any gauge, so you can use any yarn and corresponding needles, which I think is very neat to use up those scraps. If you have scraps of glittery yarn, that would be a great option for this project. You can also starch it at the end, so what I'm guessing would be just a mix of cornstarch and water that you dunk the fabric in and then let it dry flat, maybe even iron it flat. I included this pattern because it looks like something you wouldn't be able to knit. It looks like something you should crochet or tat, but I'm looking at the pictures and I'm seeing needles, knitting needles, so whatever sort of sorcery this is, I'm on board. I'm saying I might do one, but honestly I don't know if I have the time. Next up, the Stjärna pattern by Karolina Eckerdal. So this is one of those tricky Swedish letters that most people don't know how to pronounce. The so the A with 2 dots, not to be confused with the A with a round circle on top, because that's Å. But this Stjärna, star, is a free pattern, and it is these chunky little stars. They have ridges in the middle going from each of the points, and I've seen Ali from AJ Knits make one of these and it looked so cute. It looked so homemade in the best way. It looks very much filled with love. And this is knit on a DK weight yarn with 3mm needles. It's a free pattern, as I said, and it's customizable to the gauge and needle size that you have, as most of these patterns are, because they don't need to fit a specific dimension. They just need to work with whatever you have. So those tiny scraps of sock yarn that you have would make for great little stars. Next up, to go further on the sock variation, I have the mini Christmas stocking ornaments by Julie Williams. These are a bunch of Christmas themed colourwork socks. It looks like stockings you would hang up, and they are tiny. They are knit on a 2.75mm needle with a fingering weight yarn, so they are going to be quite small. It's going to be a finished size of 2 to 3 inches, so 5 to 7.5 centimeters. Tiny socks. A bit bigger than the ones that I knit because they were about this size, but to get any sort of colour work you would need to have a bit of a bigger size because otherwise the colour work is not going to be very obvious, clear, prominent. This is also a free pattern. There is an update from November 19th, 2015, so at least 10 years old. And this pattern is knit flat because the pattern designer, she says in the description that she prefers knitting flat and prefer working Fair Isle and intarsia designs this way. So I would knit it in the round probably because that's how I knit my socks most of the time. But if you want to work something flat and seam it together into a cute little sock, this is it. The next pattern I included because I love a good pun. This is the Ball-ble by Liky France. This is a knitted little ball of yarn that is knit with cables going around and moving in different directions to look like a ball of yarn. She even has a little paper band around the ball to make it look like a proper little ball of yarn. This is also a free pattern. I think it's a very funny pattern. I don't know that I would knit it myself. I was actually given a yarn ball ornament last year by my brother and his wife because they know how much I love to knit, and they found it and they thought that it was funny, and I agree, I love it. So I don't know that I would need a second bauble, but I think it's a funny little project and it looks really cute. The size available is one size and in brackets tiny exclamation point. So I don't know, is it this tiny? Is it this tiny? Is it this tiny? You would use a 2.5mm needle and a fingering weight yarn, so you could make it proper tiny. I've knitted one pattern by Liky France before. She made the Feels Right tee and I did a version of it. I made a project vlog about it if you want to watch it. I wasn't completely sold on the pattern, but I think it's a good enough base pattern for me to make modifications off of, and I might actually use it for one of the projects that I have coming up because I wanted to knit myself some more t-shirts and I have yarns for it. I just have to be finished with all of the gift knitting that I'm doing and all of the Vlogmas stuff that I'm doing. The next pattern I have is not for a single ornament but for a chain of ornaments. So these are by Drops Design, the Christmas woods. So a bunch of little Christmas trees. So a bunch of little Christmas trees with different ornaments that is either duplicate stitched or colourwork knitted into the triangle. You then stuff it and hang it on a chain. So I think it could be a Christmas treeception. This could also be a great alternative if you don't plan on having a Christmas tree, but you want some of the Christmas tree vibe. As all Drops Designs patterns, this is a free pattern. It's available through their website. I think it's available in Swedish, English, and 14 other languages. Yeah. Wow. They have so many resources. I do not understand how they do it, but it's just such a good place for a free pattern. This sweater, by the way, is designed, it's based off of a circular yoke, and then I modified it to include the colourwork. The sleeves, I think, are also picked from a different Drops pattern and modified to fit whatever I wanted, but to get the starting point, I used a Drops pattern for this free-handed sweater. Is it free-handed? Self-drafted. Let's go for self-drafted. Ish. Self-designed. Another Drops Design pattern, the Yuletide Ribbon. I've seen these bows everywhere and I really love them. I think they are pretty. I think they are just the right amount of classic without being over the top. And I know that Petite Knit has one of these as well. I think Laura Penrose has a bow that she has released as well, and they have a bit of a different shape. So if you want that more extreme exaggerated triangle, then I would go for one of the paid patterns. You could definitely just adapt this pattern. This was published in 2024, so they definitely went with the trend that a lot of people were designing bows, but it is a fingering plus lace plus fingering weight, making a DK weight yarn, and it's knit on a 3.5mm needle. It is finished with an I-cord on the edges. The piece is worked from side to side with garter stitch and an I-cord finish. And I think that I would actually want to make one of these. Of course, I would want to make it green, but I think it's a Christmas appropriate hair accessory. You could put it on a gift. You can also hang it on your tree. It's a classic for a reason. A simple bow, and you would use the scraps that you have left over from other projects, those fancy little scraps of silk mohair or fun glitter yarn that you don't have a use for otherwise, because it's either too scratchy or it's too thin or it's too difficult to do a big project with. You can be patient and do a 3.5mm needle work with this small project. I think I actually might knit this. Keep your eyes peeled. That's such a gross expression. Who wants to peel their eyes? The next pattern I have is the Holiday Cheer Mini Hat by Nancy Ekvall. I'm sure she doesn't pronounce her last name like that, but I do because it sounds Swedish enough. They are knit on a DK weight on a 4mm needle, and they are a bunch of tiny little hats with pom-poms. So the same idea that I had with the tiny socks, tiny hats is also such a cute idea. That might be what I do for next year if I want, because I think the tiny socks are more compatible to hanging on a string or a chain, and the tiny hats would be great on a wreath as well. So I definitely think that is something I could do. And making tiny pom-poms sounds like such a fun activity. I think I would really enjoy doing that. And it uses the teeny tiniest amount of yarn, of course, 11 meters of yarn, because it's just a little hat. Hang on. Sizes available: 4.5 inches by 2 inches. Is it going to be this big or this long? And this wide? Something does not add up. Using whatever yarn works to make it tiny enough would be great, because I don't think you would want it to be too big. I wouldn't want to knit like a bunch of doll hats or preemie hats, because that would be going into baby territory, and I want it to be Christmas and elf territory rather than baby territory. If you understand the difference. Both aesthetics are cute, but I wouldn't want it to be too big. So I would probably size down on the needles and go for a fingering weight yarn instead to get the small project that I'm envisioning, because I want it to be this big at maximum. But it's a free pattern. You could look it up and adjust your gauge accordingly and adjust your expectations. Next pattern is something that I'm already planning on making. You will see this in a few days because I'm going to post about it if it works out. These are the Knitted Lights by Leila Raven. This is such a great idea. It is a wall hanging made by knitting a swatch out of string lights. That's the idea, and I love the idea. I went yarn shopping, and when I say yarn shopping, I mean string light shopping. I went to a bunch of different stores trying to find a light cord that wasn't going to be ugly when the light is off or when it's lit, brightly lit in the room. So I wanted a thin metal thread with a bunch of small light diodes. But all of the places we went only had the big chunky plastic looking cords, and I ended up having to order it online because I wanted it to be battery powered as well, because I don't want a long cord to the outlet. I want to be able to hang it on the wall without it taking up more wall space and mental space than just flicking on the battery pack. So I love the idea that the pattern description is also so human. I love it. The desire to make a wall hanging of knitted lights came about as I was unpacking my belongings after a recent move. I came across my little nests of fairy lights carefully tucked away for new walls in a new town. I unearthed a spare set of wooden needles from my early days of knitting that were no longer in use but still held sentimental value. What better use for them than hanging a knitted swatch of light on them to display a pretty illuminated work in progress in my new home? I couldn't agree more. I think it's a lovely idea. I think that this sort of idea exchange is just what the internet was made for. Because would I have thought about this myself? Probably not. Could I have? Yes. Am I happy that I stumbled over someone that already had? Yes. Ecstatic. I'm really looking forward to it. I hope I get the delivery today. They tried delivering it yesterday, but they couldn't get into the house because they didn't have an access code, and I hope I can go pick the parcel up this afternoon or this evening. We'll see, because I'm so excited. I would love to make this. Last pattern for this round is again by Drops Design. Can you tell I have a thing for them? This is the Winter Whisper Ball-ble. This was also from the Christmas calendar last year. Rude. I've been blocking out that beeping sound for myself. How long have you been listening to it? I'm so sorry. I'm not going to refilm this. I cannot be bothered. This is knit on a 4mm needle with a lace weight and a DK weight yarn held together, making an Aran weight. And this is, of course, also customizable. These are little baubles with leaves going down the top. And I think if you manage to get this neat looking, you would have a beautiful bauble. I went through the projects, and some of them were clearer than others. I think the pattern definitely wins if you have a bit of a fuzz. So I wouldn't make this with a plant fibre, like a cotton, for example. I would definitely want something a bit fuzzier. It might work with an acrylic if it's a bit fuzzy, but it needs that little bit of a halo to fill out the stitches and make up for the little odd gaps that could show up when you make the leaf. So the prettiest ones are definitely the natural fibre ones. Someone knitted a white bauble with pink stuffing, which I think was a great idea. Most of the people have just knitted it on in a white and left it at that, but some people have used variegated yarn, but there is also a red project and a beigey project, so I think there is a lot of possibility to customize this as well. So that is a bunch of free patterns for Christmas ornaments. I might get around to knitting some of them. I am definitely doing the knitted lights because it's such a great idea, and I cannot stop talking about and thinking about how great the idea is. If you liked the video, please do like it. If you want to, please consider subscribing by clicking right there. If you want to, you can click over here and that will take you to the video playlist of Vlogmas 2025. I upload knitting related videos every day and hope to see you in my next one. Bye.